Everybody, welcome to UGA Sports Live. My name is Roddy Nabulsi, the publisher of UGA Sports, and we are having a UGA Sports Live show tomorrow with Coach Donnan. We will have it at 7 o'clock. But there's been a lot of breaking news today and a lot of stuff to cover. So I thought I'd jump on here because we're used to having a Tuesday show. And Monday, we couldn't do our recruiting show, so we're kind of behind. And we got a lot to talk to Coach Donnan about tomorrow. I mean, it's hard to believe it. Come Sunday, we are at, we're a week away. We'll be in game week next week is my point. And it's just hard for me to believe that come Sunday, we'll be able to say, hey, look, it's game week. So it's here and there's a lot going on. And I kind of wanted to get into what some of the stuff that Kirby Smart spoke about earlier. So if you have any questions or comments today's a perfect time to just drop your questions into the chat section there. Let me get to them. I'm just here to basically talk about the news. And if you've got something you want to talk about, go ahead. Shout out to all of our TikTok folks. We appreciate them joining us. So if you see me looking up and down, it's because we're going YouTube, Facebook, TikTok all at once. So Kirby Smart was asked, I guess the biggest news from the scrimmage was that Jared Wilson, the center, is back. And Kirby said that, he's back to practicing. I thought that's a big deal. I also thought it was a big deal that Smile Munden was back. I asked Kirby Smart about Smile Munden, the inside linebacker, and he said, well, he's been practicing all the time, but I know he hasn't been doing a whole lot in the scrimmages. So that's kind of a big deal that he was actually back out there on the field scrimmaging. So if you get Smile Munden back at inside linebacker, you get Jared Wilson, their preferred center back. Now, all of a sudden, Georgia's looking quite nasty. And that's not to say that with Tate Radledge at center, Georgia wouldn't be amazing. I mean, if you've got a first-team all-SEC guard moving over to center and you're putting Micah Morris on one side of him and Dylan Fairchild on the other side, that's pretty bloody good. You're going to be a very strong football team there if you're doing that. But they want to play with Jared Wilson. They want to have Tate Radledge over there on the right. So that's kind of a big deal for him. Smile Munden, again, all SEC. First round possible pick. I mean, this is your leader on the defense. Guys played a lot of football, a lot of high level. Kirby always says we need guys who can play championship football, winning football. And yeah, you have that in CJ Allen, who started games for you last year, played in all 14 started 5 games. Anyway, CJ Allen has played a lot of football for you. But you want to have Smile Munden too. You don't want to have to go to Raylan Wilson, Troy Bowles, or Jalen Walker right off the bat. You want to have Smile Munden out there. You want to have your best players. So those two guys coming back, I thought was a very big deal. Also, the 5-star freshman KJ Bolden back. Was banged up a little bit. He's back out there. So that to me was kind of the interesting stuff that Kirby kind of confirmed when we were talking to him. We'd heard that about the scrimmage. Kirby confirmed it during his press conference. I thought that was a big deal. So some of the other things he spoke about, he was asked about Roderick Robinson and Warren Brinson. He said that Roderick Robinson has turf toe. And he said, I don't know when he'll be back. Now, we have an update at UGAsports.com. That's behind the paywall. You can go read that. But when Kirby says, when a guy's hurt, Kirby often says, we hope to get him back for Saturday. We're hoping to get him back soon. We're hoping to get him back, fairly quickly. When he says, I don't know when he'll return, Kirby doesn't often say that unless it's going to be a while. So that turf toe is such an annoying injury for players. It is it's very frustrating, and it can ruin your season. So apparently he has turf toe pretty bad, and Kirby says, I don't know when they will get Roderick Robinson back. So that's kind of a big deal. That's about Warren Brinson, and he expects Warren Brinson back soon. Kirby Smart was asked, what does he see from his 3 the question there, did Rod Robinson have surgery, from Jeff Dyer? Jeff, we're looking into that. If you read the update we had at UGAsports.com, you see we have not confirmed that. A lot of times, it might need that. But that if it does, that's a pretty bad case. But you do have a lot of other running backs, so I can see why they're like, look, this could linger for a long time. Let's go ahead and do surgery to fix it. If you start reading about turf toe, a lot of it is just rest and other therapies besides surgery. So Curtis Maximus, 51, says Kirby seemed pretty fired up and focused today. I would say he was fired up and focused last week too, but it was in the opposite direction. He was pissed about his team. He said, we got a long way to go. So he didn't seem as thrilled as he did. E. Douglas says, is Cole Spear going to play a lot at receiver? I don't know if he'll play a lot, but we did break the news in our scrimmage report. Apparently a lot of people ran with it after we wrote it, that Cole Spear had a great scrimmage. And then Kirby confirmed that news because I asked specifically about Cole Spear. And he said, look, this guy can play. He's a difference maker on all 4 special teams. He's a special teams wrecking force. He's big on all those, but he can also play wide receiver. I'm not saying he's the next Ladd McConkey, but that was kind of what we were hearing about Ladd McConkey. And it was funny. Nobody knew who the hell Ladd McConkey was and before that Clemson game. And we told people, said, look, these guys are hurt. These guys are hurt. Look for them to throw a lot of balls to number 84, Ladd McConkey, and that freshman tight end, Brock Bowers. And I did predict Georgia to lose that game, although a lot of people did. But I did predict, because I thought the people I spoke to expected Georgia to lose that game to Clemson, but then not lose again because they said this is a championship level team, but we're just so young. We're replacing so many guys. And the rest is history. I don't know that Cole Spear will be of that caliber, but Cole Spear is not just like a walk-on as a lot of people think of him. He is a baller, and he had a great scrimmage. So did Gunnar Stockton, the number 2 quarterback. So don't sleep on a Cole Spear. That guy's pretty good. Hey, Keith, we appreciate Keith jumping in here. That means a lot to us. Curtis Maximus also says, do you think the injuries are a real issue for the Clemson game or just something to talk about right now? I'm leading this little chat with him, Curtis, because getting your starting center back is huge. Getting your starting inside linebacker is huge. Having the guy who's basically your number 1 running back, that's Trevor Etienne wasn't your number 1 guy. But you got to remember, Trevor had a DUI in the offseason. I don't know that he will play. Duriel, don't let me forget that one. He's by Georgia policy. If you get a DUI, if you get arrested for a DUI, you're out. You miss 10% of your games, which 1.2% of a 12-season game, you miss 1 game. So even though the charges were dropped because it copped a plea deal, the DUI was dropped. That's I could see him being suspended. That's been the policy for years, and it was automatic. It didn't matter if it was thrown out or you beat it or whatever. The arrest for DUI was an automatic 10% of your season suspension. Now, what they did years ago is they came out and said, look, we need to have some leeway in here. The athletic director needs to be able to step in and say, no, we have some other things on here that we want to deal with. So, or other things we need to consider. And it wasn't as automatic, but I could still see Trevor Etienne being out. Therefore, you go to Roderick Robinson. That's been your workhorse while Branson Robinson has been healing. And you have 3 true freshmen who are learning. 2 of them weren't here from the spring. So it's basically Roderick Robinson and Cash Jones. Now, Roderick Robinson's injured. So it's not just the injuries being what everybody talks about now. That's a guy who is not going to play against Clemson. So now you have to go to Branson Robinson, who's just healed, and is coming back. So if Trevor Etienne's out because of suspension, Roderick Robinson's out because of turf toe, now you're to Branson Robinson, who didn't play last year, and Cash Jones. Cash Jones might be your leading rusher. So that's why I say I'm leading the show off with injury stuff. And Kirby Smart hates when we talk injuries. I get it. But our goal is to tell you who's going to be on the field. And the personnel on the field determines whether you win or lose. So Jeff Dyer says might be a first half suspension. I could see that. Marshall Fleming says, go Dogs, good evening. Colby Young was also has been banged up for some time. So that's not good. Ron Hallebeck says, did Carson Beck look good in the scrimmage. He didn't go scrimmage. He looked Carson Beck like he had some nice long passes. That was his problem last year. Couldn't hit the long passes. The timing was off or the accuracy or whatever. But his long passes were he's hit a few of those. Some people said, "Oh, he wasn't as sharp or he didn't look focused." I've had other people say he looks masterful out there and very efficient. But it was just a situation where he's not trying to win scrimmages. He's going out there and doing what the coaches tell him to, and he's working through his progressions, using all his different options out there. We're not going to be able to tell from a scrimmage, be able to tell you how, what Carson Beck is going to look like or not. I think this could the suspension be for Tennessee Tech? No, they don't do that. They really don't. Years ago, I broke the story that 3 of Georgia's running backs failed a drug test, and they were suspended, I think, for the ULM game. But the news came out on like Sunday, Monday after Florida. And the theory was amongst the Florida fans that they had failed the test prior to the Georgia-Florida game, and they all should have been held out from that one. That was the same time that Richard Samuel got hurt and Georgia had to go back. They lost Isaiah Crowell and a bunch of other guys and due to a failed drug test. And everyone was like, well, it makes sense. If you get that report back, maybe you don't turn that into the head coach until after the Georgia-Florida game. Then you hold it up and go, oh, by the way, they're out. they failed a drug test. We can't use them against ULM or whoever. So that kind of sucked. Let me go back here into TikTok. Scott from Georgia says, I think they need to let Beck run the offense from the line. That's kind of scary. Brian Adams, what are we hearing on Branson Robinson? I heard that he took some licks for 2 things. A, he looked a little timid. Well, the guy's had 2 back-to-back injuries, so I could see why. But I also heard that in the scrimmage, he took some licks. He took some hits and was doing power running. So if he's doing power running through some guys, that's kind of good, and that's what you're going to need. Clemson, we always has a good defense, especially those guys up front. Trevor, does he have turf toe? Scott from Georgia, no, it's not. Trevor Etienne might be suspended. It's Roderick Robinson that has turf toe. We broke that news that he had a toe injury or had a foot injury. Kirby last week said it was a toe injury. We asked again this week, and he says it's turf toe. So, E. Douglas says, do you think Ellis Robinson will play much this season? It feels like we don't hear a lot about him. If you're on the Dog Man, you hear about him all the time. And I'm assuming you are. You just might not have read those threads, Douglas, because this was the number 1 cornerback in the nation. And I don't say that lightly because there are a lot of good cornerbacks that were very highly rated in last year's class. Georgia got the number 1 guy. Very low drama recruitment. Could have been crazy, but he committed to Georgia early, stayed committed. Loves the Bulldogs. I was basically hearing that you have Dalen Everett on one side. Remember the guy that they got him from Clemson at the very last second. So that was, and I said, keep your eye on this kid. He winds up starting as all last year. So you have him on one side, then you have Julian Humphrey and Daniel Harris on the other side. Robinson is backing up Dalen Everett. So we were told that those guys actually kind of rotated some. You have Humphrey and Dalen Everett starting, but here come Harris and Robinson rolling in with them. So starting may be overrated because as much as they rotate. So, yeah, you're going to hear a lot from Ellis Robinson. Scott from Georgia says Cash Jones is money. There are no puns allowed on this show, but you are correct about that. Miss Mary Embroider said, ugh, I was looking forward to seeing Trevor. You will. He'll probably go off for about 150 against Tennessee Tech. Duriel's 18 says, what does the receiver room look like outside of Arian and Dom? So Arian Smith, number 11. Today was the there's 11 days until kickoff. Today was number 11 in our jersey countdown. We said, who's the best Georgia player to wear number 11? And everyone said the same thing that I did. When I think of 11, I think of Aaron Murray. then Jake Fromm. And right now, I think of Arian Smith. Arian Smith had a nice touchdown in the scrimmage. Dom Blaylock. Still doing that. Dominic Lovett is he's probably going to be your leading receiver this year. I've got very little question in my mind. But we mentioned Cole Spear. But the guy that when they run the first three out there is Dylan Bell. Now, again, if you needed him, if you didn't have three stud freshman running backs coming in, you still move Dylan Bell into the backfield. I still think he has a future as a wide receiver or a running back. I'd put my money on him to do any of those. Just an absolute star. But no, those three are going to be lining up 1, 2, 3. Then we've seen Big Colby Young, even though he's been banged up. London Humphreys had a good scrimmage. We mentioned Cole Spear. Don't forget Michael Jackson, the third out of USC. So a lot of wide receivers out there that you could start with. Ryan Butler says, Oscar Delp has big shoes to fill this year. Need to shine with a young receiver room. Yes. I hate to be the guy that comes in to replace the legend or two legends. I mean, you're replacing not only Brock Bowers, but Darnell Washington. And when you have those two guys on the field, you won championships. Oscar Delp could have a great year, but in comparison, people will not probably give him the credit he deserves. But we have questions over here about the other tight end. Where is it? Sorry. We're looking for Urosic. I'm trying to find the person to ask the question because I feel bad about running right past it. Oh, here it is. Chet Summers. What about Ben Urosic? He's really good. He's really good. So and remember, before Lawson Lucky got injured, we were talking about Lawson Lucky being the man, the guy. So you're really going to be very pleased with your 12 personnel having Oscar Delp and Lawson Lucky out there. Now you got Ben Urosic in there, Colton Heinrich and Jaden Riddell. We've heard great things about them. So Georgia's room is very young, but between Delp and Urosic out there, who could both have big seasons, they could both have great seasons for a Georgia tight end. But in relation to Brock Bowers, it'd be like, oh man, we've taken a step back at tight end. It's impossible not to take a step back at tight end. I just hope folks don't. It's not fair to compare anybody to Brock Bowers. But if you compare Oscar Delp this year to Oscar Delp last year, I think Ryan, everybody will be very happy with Oscar Delp. Oscar brings in, Brian Adams says Oscar brings in a calmness, and I like that. He does, but nobody's more calm than Brock. I don't think his blood went up or his beats per minute. I think he just had a resting 35 heartbeat his entire football career, just very much. Nick UGA says it's been quiet on the Michael Williams front, and I hope it spikes up in game one. Yeah. Honestly, I would not let that man scrimmage, no matter how much he begged. I'm like, we're not doing any of that. Yeah, here's like following Roquan. Yeah, you don't want to follow Roquan, but hey, you had a bunch of guys that did, and it worked out pretty well, you know. So, Jeff Dyer, you were banned. I hear Michael Jackson third. It's a thriller. You were kicked off this. You will be blocked from all of our things. Oh, did the last two commitments have committable offers? Still, yeah. They did. Did Georgia fight like hell to keep them? No, but they do. Jermaine asked if did Dylan Bell slide back in the running back room. Now, here's the thing. You have Nate Frazier. Nate Frazier is going to be a superstar. But we're not hearing as much hype about Chauncey Bowens, and Phillips. But Phillips can fly. Chauncey Bowens is tough as nails. You saw him in spring. That kid looked great. So you got three really good running backs. You kind of wish you still had Andrew Paul, but you can't keep them all. So Block says, how's Raylan Wilson doing? First few weeks, we heard a lot of great things about him. I was told, and again, take this with a huge grain of salt. If I had a salt shaker here, I'd pick it up and dump it all over the camera. I was told, man, Raylan Wilson looks phenomenal. He looks as good, if not better, than C.J. Allen. That was told to me by a very young person. But he was very impressed back when they were working out over the summer how good Raylan Wilson looked. And we've heard good things about him. I also heard good things about Troy Bowles. We asked Glenn Schumann about him, and he said, look, this is a guy who played DB. So now he's coming back and we're having to learn to be an inside linebacker. Jalen Walker can slide over to inside linebacker. Jalen said he's much more comfortable playing inside linebacker, which he didn't do in high school. He played outside. So you do have pretty good depth past Smile Munden and CJ out. Run Raylan Wilson out there. Justin Williams asked about him, the 5-star inside linebacker. Kirby said good things about him. You have a lot of talent there, but it's very, very young, very, very inexperienced. And that's why Kirby last week was talking about we have the least amount of depth that we've ever had. And I'm like, I'm looking at your roster full of 5-stars, and you're telling me you have the least amount of depth. Coach Donovan on our Tuesday show last week, we asked him about this, and he said Kirby is just basically kind of pulling a Vince Dooley and kind of talking down his team a little bit. But he made a great point. There's a difference between talent and depth. And I'm like, very, very good points there. So I appreciate that because that does make a difference. Get 3 freshman running back. None of them have carried the ball for Georgia in the game. They might all go off, before their careers at Georgia are done, they all might be 1,000-yard rushers. Right now, it's 0, 0, and 0. So are you ready to bring one of those guys in against Clemson? It's tricky. Randy Payne, how's the kicking game looking? Randy, the kicking game is looking phenomenal. Brett Thorson's booming punts. If you've ever worked with a jugs machine and sometimes you angle that sucker up and you just launch him into the sky, that's what it looks like when he kicks these balls. They're just punching them out there. Also, it's not just, boom, everything, kick it as far as you can. He was in the scrimmages, was pinning people deep, the little pooch kicks. Hopefully you never have to use them. I hope that Brett Thorson's jersey stays as clean. He doesn't even have to wash it. Just put it on again next week. In a perfect world, he doesn't have to. But you have a really good punter there. This guy he is a weapon for you. Peyton Woodring, kicker, what a freshman season. Started out struggled a little bit early on, but then became pretty much automatic. Heard he was kicking very, very well, knocking down field goals. Clemson, not so much. We had one of our readers at UGAsports.com, may have heard some things from Clemson, may have seen some things from Clemson scrimmage. They're having a little trouble with their kicking team. So it says our punter is a comedian. Yeah, he's funny. And the good thing is if punting doesn't work out for him, get that guy on TikTok, get him on YouTube, get him his own TV deal. He'll be another good Australian actor, comedian. He's definitely got a future. Zach Turner is tuning in from Twitter. We appreciate that. Did you lose a running back today? You've had a running back who was out. We reported a couple weeks ago that Rod Robinson had a boot on. Kirby says it was a toe injury last week. We asked him again this week. He says it's turf toe. And when I started the show off with Kirby confirming earlier today that he doesn't know when they're going to get him back. Usually, we reported years ago, or a few years ago, that Georgia had a player with a Liz Frank fracture in his foot. That takes forever to recover, especially if you're a big man. If you're a big offensive lineman or a tight end or something like that, and on the top of your foot, you get a fracture. Well, those bones on the top of your foot, they don't get a lot of blood flow. So to repair one stronger than it was before takes forever. And Kirby wouldn't confirm that. He would just say, oh, he's out, but we hope to get him back this week. We knew it was 4 to 6 weeks. But every week he's like, yeah, we hope to get – and we'd ask each week. And Kirby would say, we hope to get him back this week. We hope to get him back this week. We hope to get him back this week. So Kirby, I don't want to say he doesn't lie, but sometimes he doesn't give away details that the other team can use. And if it's a Darnell Washington and Kirby says, oh, we hope to get him back this week, you as an opposing team have to prepare for the fact that Darnell Washington might be back this week, even though the guys at UGA Sports knows he's not going to be back for a month. when he said Rod Robinson is, we don't know when we'll get him back, that's not sugarcoating it. That's Kirby being honest, and they don't know. So it's going to be a while. It's definitely going to be a while. Nitro Tuggle had a one-handed – Corey Williams, that's Nitro Tuggle doing good. He had a one-handed catch in the scrimmage in the end zone for a touchdown. I think that's pretty good. So I wouldn't worry about that. Folks on TikTok asking this, as is Brian Kephart, the outlook for the defensive line health depth walking this Clemson game. Jordan Hall's out for a while. Warren Brinson's trying to come back. Jamal Jarrett was working with the threes, but he's healthy. If you can run out there with Tyrion Ingram Dawkins, Nazir Stackhouse, Christian Miller, I think you're doing pretty good. Then you spell them with some of the younger guys. You're great, but you're not as – it'd be better to have Warren Brinson out there. And Jordan Hall's – he's going to be out for a while because, I think they put another pin in his other leg. So, Brian, you're thin. You're thin, and when you start rotating, you rotate into guys that don't have a lot of snaps. So, who is your surprise player for the Dogs? You got to qualify that. A surprise player. I mean, to me, it'd be Nate Frazier, but we've been talking about him for 3-4 weeks, how, all the reports we've heard about him. So that would not be fair. And once we started doing it, a lot of other people started, we're hearing great things about Nate Frazier. Well, yeah, you are, because he's tearing it up. He had a long run, catching passes out of the backfield. I don't know if he's that guy. I think it's going to be somebody on defense. It's going to be a surprise. I think that's where you're going to more likely to have. I mean, nobody on the offensive line is going to be a surprise to you, are they? Jamal Merriweather. But then you're expecting an injury at some point. Your tight ends, there's not enough of them to really surprise you. Your quarterbacks aren't a surprise. Your wide receivers aren't a surprise. Maybe Cole Spear. I think it's going to be somebody that just, maybe. And again, would KJ Bolden be a surprise? I mean, you're looking at Jake Pope back there and Malachi Starks as your two safeties. That's a good 1-2 punch. But if all of a sudden KJ Bolden got in there, would that be a surprise that the 5-star number 1 safety in the nation plays more as a true freshman? That's tough. Yeah, I was actually talking to somebody about this. You remember how Patrick Pass's turf toe lasted forever? That really, really messed up his he can't got over it. Great career, right? Did do well in the NFL. So, but just very much limited him at Georgia. It's debilitating. Ooh, this is a tough one. Roddy, who do you want to win this weekend? Georgia Tech or FSU? A lot of people be like, "Oh, that's an easy answer," but I do like some of the coaches and players at Georgia Tech. And and FSU Twitter they're still out there saying that they should have been in the playoffs. They'd have been one of the they'd have beaten everybody if their guys had played. So there is a little bit of interest there. I'll take Georgia Tech. I mean, you want Georgia Tech to win. Then when you beat them, you're not beating Little Sisters of the Poor. So root for them. Zach Turner, who's a nickel in Clemson besides Everett and Starks. Janelle Aguero. That's your guy. Curtis Maxwell's Chipper Jones was never the same after his turf toe. Yeah. Someone taking Dan Jackson's reps. Yeah, I mean, Dan could definitely be the guy, but between him and Pope and Malachi Starks, remember, Malachi didn't start that Oregon game, but he gets in there. He has a great, crazy interception, and then he never comes off the field again, pretty much. So, E. Douglas was asking about how Small Munden looked. Again, he's been out for a while. He has not scrimmaged as much because you're getting the other guy's reps. He knows what to do. But he was recovering from an injury. So you take it slow with him. You don't aggravate it. Let the other guys get reps. But Kirby Smart today said the Smile has participated in every practice of fall. So that's pretty good. Ito Douglas says, my breakout player is Janelle Aguero. Again, but that's a guy that we were talking about last year. Is that really a breakout guy? Is that a surprise guy? I guess we need criteria for what the breakout would be. Duriel 18 with a smart ass comment. I just want to see what DJ Unga Alele looks like at his third school. Y'all are mean sons of bitches. Nick UGA says Michael will get 10 sacks. I don't see it happening. I would love to see it happen. It's fun to come. Being when I'm not doing the watch along show with Coach Donnan, which we've had a few people reach out to say they want to be sponsors of that. We appreciate that. We're putting together a package for you. If you want to be a sponsor of the watch along show, please let me know. I've learned more about football sitting next to Coach Donnan than I thought I knew it. Nothing like sitting next to a Hall of Fame head coach and learning football way beyond what you ever did know. But before I was doing that, one of my favorite things to do was be on the field, taking pictures, reporting what I saw from the field level. All the guys are up in the press box, and they see one game. I see a different game down on the field. There's just you hear more stuff, you see more stuff, or you see different stuff. You can't see the overall picture a lot, but we were often able to talk about different things going on. Guys coming off the field. I remember one time some Tennessee guys came off the field. Georgia had the lead. They came off the field and yelled at their head coach or their line coach. Those blankety blank blanks can't stop us. And Tennessee proceeded to drive down the field the next 4 possessions and score touchdowns, running the ball. They're like, yeah, we're blocking their asses off. It's kind of the thing there. Nobody knew that it changed on the field like that, but I did because I was there. So I like being down there and then having 2 or 3 of our UGA sports writers up in the press box. What I always wanted to do, what my favorite thing to shoot, though, was a sack. Leonard Floyd, putting the LSU game to sleep, Davin Bellamy, Adam Anderson, Lorenzo Carter, Aziz Ojulari. There's nothing like a sack. And I'll get behind the opposing team's offense so that the Georgia defense is facing me. That means all the passes and everything going down the field, I'm too far away from. But if one guy gets through and gets a sack, Georgia's inside linebackers coming through that A gap, Roquan Smith, when Georgia would blitz the A gap, sometimes a double A gap blitz, blowing it all to hell. Love it. So Michael Williams getting 10 sacks would be phenomenal. Would be so thrilled to see that, to film that, to be a part of that. I just don't think that he'll get that. I think there will be more sacks this year, but I think they'll be spread out more because teams are going to focus in on Michael and do everything they can to stop him. That frees up other people. So, God, Jarvis Jones. I mean, how many games did he change with his sacks? You call it a game-changing interception, a game-changing fumble. Sometimes a sack just means, okay, it was 2nd and 2. Now it's, 2nd and 14. But he changed the outcomes of games. He won. He beat Missouri twice single-handedly, pretty much. Yeah, Nostradamus is what we call Coach. Yeah, if you've never seen the watch-along show, because a lot of you go to the games and you're sitting there. If you ever have a game where you were at home and you were not watching the game in the stadium, put your TV on the game, and on your phone, tablet, iPad, whatever, go to YouTube and type in Watch Along Show or Jim Donnan and watch as he calls the plays before they happen. Because he looks at the formation and goes, this is a run into the boundary. It's a run into the boundary. If the quarterback keeps it here, he'll keep running for all day. Quarterback keeps it and he's running all day. Again, you learn so much from watching Coach talk you through a game as to why they do certain things. Well, DJ Ungale looked better than JT Daniels did at the food school. Y'all are mean as hell. I'm not touching that. Sip my iced tea. Here's a good question from Ed. I missed it earlier. What does the depth chart look like after Carson Beck? Gunnar Stockton, Ryan Puglisi, Jaden Rashad. That's my take. Kirby was asked that point blank today. Who's your number 2 quarterback? Is it Gunnar Stockton, and what kind of strides has he made? Well, he said, I love our quarterback room. Again, wouldn't answer the question. I mean, he's asked a direct question. He moves on to say, because our quarterbacks are great. We love the depth we've had there. We haven't had that much depth in a long time. And it's true. But Gunnar Stockton, he went with the 2s and the 1s in the scrimmage, and he led a number of scoring drives. Basically, let's see if Kirby Smart here.
Is Gunnar Stockton your backup quarterback, and how has he looked this preseason?
You know, we have a group of quarterbacks that have done a great job. I think we've got depth at the quarterback position that we're not used to having in terms of guys that have experience, some guys that are young, some guys that have played like Gunnar and Jaden, and they've done a tremendous job.
So you can see that that was kind of so been very pleased with what he's done. Gunnar led a number of scoring drives. And Kirby said that's basically the best scrimmage he's had since he's been here. So the other players rave about Gunnar Stockton. So it goes Carson. And again, you remember how many quarterbacks got injured last year. I'm knocking on wood. But I also was there for the year that, Jacob Eason won the starting job against Jake Fromm. And 8 plays into the season was out for 3 or 4 games. So it happens. Quarterbacks get hurt all the time. And we're all talking Carson Beck, Heisman potential. When we start asking about the number 2 quarterback, people are like, oh, you're always fascinated about who the number 2 quarterback is. That's always the controversy. No, because it freaking matters. We started the show off talking about the number 1 inside linebacker, number 1 center coming back. Centers get hurt. Inside linebackers get hurt. Quarterbacks get hurt. Star running backs get hurt. Wide receivers get hurt. Quarterbacks get hurt in the SEC. So knowing who your number 2 guy is very important. Gunnar Stockton is an absolute baller. And some of the guys today were saying, look, he has a short memory. If something goes bad, as things will, he's ready to go again. He has that. He is a baller. The players respect him because he's ready to lead them down the field. If something bad happens, he's going to jump right back out there. He's like a good cornerback. Forget it, flush it, move on. Let's go score again. He wants to win games. Every time I went to see him at Raven, he would score 6, 7, or 8 touchdowns, either throwing or running. So he wants to get into the end zone. He's an absolute baller. And if something happens to Carson Beck, fingers crossed nothing does, Georgia's got a guy that they can punch in there. He's not as good as Carson Beck. But you may not need that with a guy who can run like that. So he gives you a different skill set. That's a good question. Any idea from Zach Turner, any idea how limited Colby Young is? Is he out for Clemson? I don't think anybody knows that at this point. There's a lot of speculation. I just don't think that we know enough yet. A lot of these things, these soft tissue injuries, if 3 days from now, he could feel 100%. I mean, it's Tuesday. Come Friday, he feels great. They start Monday, install, Tuesday, bloody Tuesday, Wednesday, more work, Thursday, walkthrough, Friday, walkthrough, Saturday game. He might be perfectly fine by then. Or it could be lingering, and they're like, hey, we're not going to play him against Clemson. You work on getting ready for Tennessee Tech. This is a good question. I didn't get to Ryan Puglisi. How big is Ryan, the quarterback Puglisi? Ryan also had 1 scoring drive in the scrimmage. This kid is a superstar. Nobody was mad that Georgia didn't get the quarterback they wanted. He went off to play for Nebraska. And I'm telling you, Dylan Raiola is going to be very good. I hope he wins a lot of games at Nebraska, but there's a reason Georgia took Ryan Puglisi right off the bat. Before they got any of the other quarterbacks they were looking for, Ryan was a definite take, regardless of who else you got. And he looks like a pro quarterback. He's huge, got a great arm. very smart. If you've seen him on our show multiple times, he is very cerebral, and that's an NFL quarterback. Dustin 8131 says, Roddy, I need a deal to get my Rivals account back. Okay, the deal is right now, it is 60% off. What is the promo code? I had it in my brain until I started doing this. You go to the front page of a Rival site and it'll be there. What is their promo code? Because I put it on there so that people could read our insider reports, our war rooms, all that good stuff. Okay, yeah. The promo code is Kickoff 2024. KICKOFF 2024. Get 60% off the entire year. So that's pretty easy to kick off 2024. That way you can get your Rivals account back if you like. A lot of people that want to join. Hey, Austin. Austin just subbed back in with a season around the corner. Thank you, Austin, for re-signing up for UGAsports.com. That means a lot to me. User 8039754337. Get a better name than user whatever. Are you concerned about the defensive line against Clemson? Absolutely. I mean, you're a fool. You're a fool if you are overly confident about Georgia in any category before the season starts. And I'm not trying to be the doom and gloom Munsonite that I am. I'm saying on paper, this team looks phenomenal. They are loaded. Paper doesn't win you games. And if they have a weakness, it is the defensive line. You're going up against a Clemson team that has not had the success that they are used to. Beating Georgia in Atlanta would be a huge shot in the arm. You were going to get everything from Clemson. And I'm not talking any of you into trying to play against them and to give 110% effort. I'm just trying to be a realist. I cover Georgia. I've seen games where they are expected to go in and win. They could be a 14-point favorite. The other team does not give a damn. Sometimes it makes them mad, and they play out of their minds. Not having some of your guys healthy for a huge part of fall camp means that even if you get them back, they're rusty. So you got to hope that your leaders out there, your Christian Millers, your Tyram Ingram Dawkins, who had a great scrimmage 2 weeks ago. We were hearing about TID. That guy just giving people hell. So get him back out there. Stackhouse, a very interesting guy. I think those guys can go out and do what they have done in the past, and should be able to win the game. But yeah, if should be nervous about it? Absolutely should be nervous. Bobby H says, how are the running backs looking? It's a mixed bag. Branson Robinson's coming back from a pretty serious injury, but has looked good in the last week's scrimmage. Roderick Robinson is out for an indefinite amount of time with turf toe. Cash Jones is really, really good. I definitely like, even Kirby Smart today called out Cash Jones, saying, he doesn't get talked about enough. So, Nate Frazier, Chauncey Bowens, and Phillips, 3 true freshmen. You are really, really you really have a definite superstars of the future. But remember, and those guys will be on special teams. We talk about it all the time, seeing Stoney Michel or Nick Chubb, DeAndre Swift making plays on special teams. So those guys will definitely help you out there. But, are they ready to go into the full-time tailback with all the pickups they have to do? It's a hard thing to protect Carson Beck when people are coming after him and knowing what your job is. So the running back room right now looks like you're going to miss, at least in the first game, the guy with the most reps in Trevor Etienne. He may play, but we've asked Kirby back-to-back weeks, and Kirby has declined to comment. Rod Robinson's actually absolutely out. Branson Robinson's playing for the first time in quite some time. And then you get into Cash Jones, Mr. Reliable, and then some freshman tailbacks who are ridiculously talented, but could be a liability when it comes to pass protection or blitz pickup. So, drinking the shows on multiple social media channels. What I'd really love is that if I could get the YouTube and Facebook feed into TikTok, that would make my life a lot easier instead of looking back and forth. But I do enjoy answering questions from both sides. Jay Clibb says, do you think any players will be sitting out the Clemson game due to off the field issues? Kirby Smart was asked today, point blank, will you have any players missing the game because of off-season arrests? Will anybody be suspended? And Kirby said, we'll deal with that. We'll deal with all that when it comes time. So he would not say. I am expecting players to miss time. Players got arrested to miss the Clemson game. It does not matter. I don't think it matters because of how many arrests that they have had. Maybe in years past, if a guy got arrested and the charges were dropped, reduced, or expunged, they'd be like, okay, you ran a crap ton of stairs. You served your internal punishment. We don't need to punish you in front of the world in the first game. These guys have been warned so many times, and they still got in trouble. So I don't think that even with the charges dropped or dismissed, that they will be able to avoid suspensions. One of the reasons that we asked Kirby about specifically, are these guys being suspended? We're not trying to air Georgia's dirty laundry. One of the things that came out of all the arrests over the last 18 months, 2 years, was in SEC Media Days, Kirby says, yes, and we have suspended players. You guys know this. And a lot of the journalists looked at each other and said, well, we have suspected this. We don't know this, because Kirby very, very seldom, if ever, says, yes, he was suspended for this game. He says stuff like he was unavailable. He was dealing with an issue. Very vague, because he doesn't want to, if you're punishing your kids at home, you don't tell everybody, hey, my son has to spend the week in his room. My son is on punishment. He's on, he's locked in his room. He's under the stairs. You just don't come out and say all that stuff because it's, as Kirby says all the time, it's none of y'all's damn business. We get that. Or like, if you also want to claim that you are punishing these guys, as we know you are, or at least we very strongly suspect, because we don't know of any injury to this player, but he wasn't available for X game. You're not calling it a suspension, but we're going to ask you if he is suspended. Kirby will not say. Now, what sometimes Kirby will do is after the game's over, Kirby will confirm that so-and-so was suspended for this game, but it's very rare. And I appreciate that about it. It makes kids, even the kids that screwed up, they're like, wow, thank you for not putting me on blast in front of everybody. It's a nice thing to do. Yeah. As Michael Turner says, Kirby ain't telling shit. Yeah. I get that, and you definitely don't want to announce a lot of it before the game, because you make the other team prep for everybody being available. So I get that. What'll be the mix on fans in Atlanta? 50-50. I know a lot of people say, oh, it's a home game for Georgia. Clemson ain't that far away. Hell, a lot of the Clemson fans can get to Atlanta quicker than Georgia fans can. They'll zip down 85. They'll be here pretty quick. Araj. Araj has been a member of the UGA Sports longer than I've been a member. I feel like this is going to be a 13-7 type game. Everybody will probably predict this to be, 38-21, and Araj comes out to be a 13-7. He'll probably be right. Hey, the last one was. So it would not shock me at all. Are we still after any wide receivers in the 25 class? Don't tune out CJ Wiley. It could still happen. John says, is Kirby extra snippy this preseason with you guys, or you think he's the same? He's the same. This is whenever we have somebody go to scrimmage and they come back and they tell us what they saw, which pisses Kirby off and the administration. But, I mean, we do appreciate our lettermen who tell us what's going on. We appreciate our McGill Society members who tell us what's going on. But we always try to count. We don't go with everything everybody says. If we hear it from 2 or 3 different people, then we put it out there. And even then, we're like, hey, this is what we were told secondhand. We don't try to say this is exactly what's going on. We know what's going on. We don't do any of that stuff. We can say multiple people have told us X. They always say, boy, Kirby was chewing this guy. Kirby hates this guy. Kirby was rat cussing, dog cussing this guy. Kirby was ripping into the O-line, the D-line, the quarterbacks, the wide receivers, whoever. And I'm like, yeah, that's a day that ends in Y. I'm not trying to be mean. I'm just like, what you're telling me about how mad Kirby was at player X or player Y or player Z, that's the way Kirby speaks. Unless you're out there a lot, you think that Kirby's furious. And he's not happy. He's not thrilled. He's dog cussing these guys. But again, that's the way he talks all day for hours at a time. So when we have, and again, we love our insiders. We're not disparaging them in the slightest. But a lot of them have not seen that before. So when they're giving us good information, they think, boy, you really want to know the inside story. The way he's cussing player X, that guy's never going to see the field again, or that guy messed up. Well, if he's cussing player X, that guy's probably going to play. If he's not dog cussing you when you mess up or praising you, he does a lot of praise. Great job. That's how we do it. When he sees winning football, championship football, he calls what he sees. He can also call the guy who that winning football is being played against, but that's Kirby Smart. He's when our insiders tell us some stuff and he's on this guy. Yeah, that's fine. We like that. Yeah, I'd love to have that seat, that Wiley kid. He's different. Did y'all ever recover that confiscated notepad? I need to get the other guys on here and ask them about the notepad that was stolen. Quick tech secret. I don't call it a tech secret. The way if you go to scrimmage or you go to a practice and you want to take notes, you don't type them into your phone. They'll come and make sure you delete it, or they'll take your phone away and give it back to you afterwards. That's like being caught with a phone in class. Turn on your phone and go to voice memos. Voice memos. Can you see it on there? You can't yet. Voice memos. Do voice memo, turn it on, just let it run, and then you can talk out loud and it'll record it. Then go back and listen to what you said. Number 11 caught a sluggo route on the goal line. Went in, went out, caught it right over, right past line, the end zone. Great catch by number 11. You don't even have to figure out who they are. Just talk numbers, and that way you can have a whole lot of notes without anybody seeing you do it. Not that I recommend doing that where they can hear you. Good question. Is Muschamp around the team a lot? Yes. And here's the thing, he can now coach. As an analyst, if he stepped down any other year as an analyst, he would not have been able to coach the team on the field during practice. But now, as a defensive analyst, he can do that. So he can go out there, with Coach T-Rob. T-Rob can take Malachi Starks to one side and coach him. And Muschamp can work, with Pope and everybody else on the other side and, walk them through it. So it will not surprise me if at some point you have so many analysts, graduate assistants, director of player personnel, all these different people that you have 2 or 3 or 4 coaches for each position group. I say that before that. Now that the teams are going to have to give up $20 million a year, I say give up, but they will be revenue sharing with the players for $20 million. Maybe the budget's going to tighten up and you won't see quite that many people out Sorry for that, Randy. Our guy at the HBTF Dogcast. That is Randy Powers. Good dude. He was late to see the notification. That's because I didn't announce it. I just kind of jumped on. Mainly, the reason we're doing this is we're going to have a great show with Coach Donnan tomorrow at 7. There's a lot to talk about. But I just kind of want to do a recap of what Kirby Smart was saying today on his press conference. Last week, I did a press conference reaction piece where we just kind of went over the things that stood out. We did that with possible intern Harrison Reno. I guess we should probably hire him, but I didn't get a chance to record that same video today, so I'm just kind of doing it live, answering questions from TikTok. Hello, downtown Linda Brown. We appreciate this. Zach Mimosa, Glowman5. JT Syke 76 is, hey, Roddy's a tough schedule. What's your prediction? 11-1 regular season. I think that's fair. Going 12-0 with home games at Texas, at Alabama, at Ole Miss. I just don't. Georgia could and will probably be favored in all those games, but it's just such a ugly gauntlet. Hell, going to Kentucky is going to be tough. Starting the season off at Clemson is going to be tough. I just think it's too hard to be perfect. So 11-1 is fair. And again, it'll be one of those, the loss, 11-1, 10-2 will be games where Georgia beats themselves. Can't get out of their own way. Turnovers. When I write my 3-2-1 columns this year, I will probably mention turnovers in every one of them because that's will determine the outcome of the season. Looking over more what Kirby Smart talked about. He was asked about Carson Beck's chemistry, which I thought was very interesting with the receivers. And he said, look, we could work chemistry with him working with the number 1 guys, but we also want to work on the number 2 guys. We want the second string wide receivers to get a lot of reps. So we're going to give up that, fine tuning that chemistry between Carson Beck and his top 3 receivers to build depth. We'll give up chemistry in favor of depth because we need depth. And hey, Georgia's won 2 titles because the teams they faced did not have great wide receiver depth. They had elite wide receivers, but when those guys got hurt, the guys behind them weren't as good, and Georgia won 2 titles. So you got to have that. And again, Georgia wasn't as good with Ladd McConkey hurt last year, and then Brock Bowers banged up. I mean, even Nick Saban after the championship game said we weren't as worried about 19 and 84 hurting us. So you got to have that. Asked him about Justin Rhett and Chris Peel and Kyron Jones about you have 3 redshirt defensive tackles or defensive backs, and we don't hear a whole lot about those. And there's a good thing if you go to the 18-minute mark of the video on UGA Sports channel, you can see that. Sorry, get to the other questions. How's Jazir Jackson progressing at O-line? 6'10", 385 pounds, 365. We asked, Kirby said he looks good. I mean, but he stands out even amongst all those giant offensive linemen. He's just so big. Good feet, but it just has a lot to learn, especially technique-wise. I mean, he didn't play high school football. So, but he's a quick study. And he played center. He's used to banging bodies around. Now you put pads on him, he's like, I'm really ready to hit somebody. So his progression has been very good considering where he started from. Jermaine, he's starting at the back of the pack, literally, when it comes to experience. No freshman tape, no sophomore tape, no junior tape, no senior tape. So he's got a long way to go. But, I mean, the good news is he doesn't have any bad habits. You're not having to teach him, make him forget something that somebody taught him that wasn't any good. Yeah. William Gray says, I heard Quintavious Johnson's making a name for himself. That was one of the guys I asked about specifically. And multiple coaches have said great things about him because the reason I asked about him, we went out to the field and you're looking at Sam Mpemba, Gabe Harris, Damon Wilson, Michael Williams, Jalen Walker. guys who have been here for a while, all, at the outside linebacker spot. And then you see 99. You're like, who the hell was that? Wait, no, excuse me. That was Joseph Junior. I'm sorry. You look at 33. You're like, yeah, who's that? That doesn't look like a true freshman. Quintavious Johnson. Holy shit, he looks good. So he's making a name for himself. Now, remember, this was a guy who, when I saw him, was playing quarterback because his team couldn't score. And then they just snapped the ball to him, and he just ran through everybody and scored a touchdown. Again, this is, Atlanta football. He's playing tough teams. And then on defense, he just line up a defensive end, go in, and just sack everybody. They'd run away from him. They knew if they put him to the field, everybody go into the boundary and use the sideline to your advantage, and they were able to. He just made teams' life living. When you see great players in high school, they stand out head and shoulders above everybody else. When they get to college, if you're a Roquan, you're a Nick Chubb, you're a Tavares King, you're a Champ Bailey. It's like I got a player that you can't stop. I got somebody better than you. Okay, well. Could Quintavious Johnson be that guy? Very possible. Randy apparently recorded a video reaction this afternoon, so y'all check that out. This is a good question. Rod says, are they even trying that big Jahair Jackson at tight end? Big O part 2. I could see it. I mean, you think he's got to have some sort of hands. He played basketball, It's like, ball's a little more oblong, but if he could do it, I'd line him up out there as just an extra offensive lineman, kind of like they did with Darnell sometimes. But you don't know if he's going to peel out for a 5-yard curl route. So that would be fun as hell to watch. 6'10" tight end. Oh my God. Where's Larry Brown when you need him? Any nuggets on the local kid, Sokovie White? Yes. I've heard good things about Sokovie White. Doubt he plays that first game because of his issue earlier, but somebody asked about Nitro Tuggle earlier, and that was we heard he had a big catch, kind of one-handed catch in the end zone. Nitro did. We've heard great things about Sokovie White. He's definitely a baller. Like Sacred Grove here says, Jalen Carter was great from day one. Yeah. I mean, it's just, he is head and shoulders better than anybody on the field. I mean, there are guys like that. Is Quintavious Johnson that way? I doubt it, but I'm just saying he looks it. In week 1, he looked that, that kind of game changer, but that's what you expect. I remember going and seeing a Gwinnett County. I don't remember the school. Wait, who are the Comets in Gwinnett? East Gwinnett. All right. Went down there to see a kid with a Georgia offer, D1 guy. Took me 40 minutes to figure out which number he was. And then I watched him. I'm like, this. The thing was, I was told, here's his number. He's like number 24. And I'm watching 24, and he's just not doing anything. I'm like, you sure it's not 40? Because 24 is just not doing anything. But that 40 guy's playing. Sure, we don't have the incorrect jersey number. Well, I think we have the wrong number. If you don't stand out at the high school level, you damn sure are going to stand out at the collegiate level. So if you go to a game that features a Georgia offeree, or a D1 kid, right off the bat, that person is different. So yeah, Jalen Carter, you saw him, and people were talking about him right away. Good Lord, this guy's a monster. So yeah, every season you have at least one super freshman like Michael Williams, Starks. Yeah. I put Jake Fromm in there. He took you to he's turned out to be pretty good. I mean, a lot of guys like that, I think this year it might be a running back. Question here about off the field issues. Given the charges have been dismissed in several cases, what are we talking about? You expect those guys to play? I do not expect them to play. because sometimes the charges were dismissed, but sometimes the charges were dropped in plea deals. Those arrests aren't eradicated or expunged. Some were, but most were not. And just the fact that you've done everything in your power and those guys still got in trouble. I think with Kirby, it's like, look, I warned you guys. You're going to lose time. And one of the guys that got in trouble was exhausted, and he got into a situation with somebody bugging him. He was exhausted because of something that had happened, and he had been run to running stadium steps. When he finally crashed, somebody was giving him grief, and he's like, I'm exhausted, go away. And it just got out of hand. So yeah. So that's just kind of the way I see it. All right. Jay Clibb says Roderick Robinson out game one with turf toe and Jared Wilson snapping game one. Yeah, based on what Kirby Smart said today. We have a report behind the paywall at UGAsports.com that you can go check out. And again, you can use Kickoff 2024 to get 60% off if you're not a member. At full price, it's 27 cents a day. At 60% off, whatever $40 just divided by 365 is, that's pretty good. You're talking into maybe 11 cents a day, something like that. I don't know. Somebody do the math real quick. But Kirby Smart confirmed that Roderick Robinson, he does not know when he's going to get him back. And Kirby's always very optimistic. We hope to get that guy back this weekend. We hope to get him back in a couple of days. We hope to see him this afternoon. He says, I don't know when we're going to get him back. So, yeah, Roderick Robinson is definitely out for game one. He might be done for the season for all I know. The turf toe is really bad. It may require surgery. You can read our note at UGAsports.com. But, yeah, Jared Wilson, we broke the news in our scrimmage report that he was back taking snaps with the first team. So Kirby says he looks good. Dylan Fairchild said they will be good no matter who they run out there. Dylan Fairchild, Drew Bobo, or Tate Ratledge. He's got faith in all of them. Should ask Dylan if he thought about snapping any. Missed opportunity there. So anyway, folks, man, I've been going over an hour. I need to email some people. And I know it sounds old-fashioned, but I'm basically sending them a sheet. So I need to jump off here. I appreciate all of you joining in. Again, the real analysis will be tomorrow at 7. Coach Donnan will be on here, and you definitely want to hear what he has to say. He's the best. We'll talk to you later. Take care.